The Zephyrian High Council had made their decision with the cold certainty that had dominated their species for 3 millennia. Commander Vextai clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as he reviewed the tactical display showing Earth's position. Small blue marble orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in what the humans called the Milky Way. Primitive bipeds, Counselor Deckmer had declared during the Final War meeting. Their technology is laughably inferior. Their ships barely breach their own solar system's boundaries. 1 orbital bombardment should suffice. The Zephyrians had conquered 47 star systems using this exact methodology. Identify, analyze, overwhelm, extract resources, move on. It was efficient, proven, and had never failed them in over 600 years of expansion. What they hadn't anticipated was Marcus Chun. Dr. Marcus Chun stood in the observation deck of Luna Base 7, watching the alien fleet emerge from hyperspace. Like metallic locusts against the star field, the emergency klaxons had been wailing for 20 minutes, and evacuation shuttles were already fleeing Earth's orbit in desperate streams of light. Estimated time to weapons range? Marcus asked his AI assistant, Aria. 14 hours, 37 minutes at current velocity, the synthetic voice replied. Dr. Chun, the evacuation shuttle for essential personnel departs in 6 minutes. Marcus didn't move from the viewport. His weathered hands remained clasped behind his back as he studied the alien formation. Aria, access to Prometheus files. Sir, those files are classified above your clearance level. Override authorization, Chin Alpha 779er. Emergency protocols are now active. There was a pause. Files access. Dr. Chun, I must advise that the Prometheus project was deemed too dangerous for implementation. Marcus smiled grimly. Sometimes dangerous is exactly what you need. The Prometheus project had been humanity's darkest secret, a theoretical weapons system based on quantum entanglement, manipulation that could theoretically destabilize matter at the subatomic level. The ethical committee had buried it after simulations. Showed it could potentially unravel entire star systems. Too dangerous, they'd said. Too unpredictable. But Marcus had never stopped working on it. 12 hours later, Commander Vextai was feeling supremely confident as his fleet entered the outer rim of the human solar system. Long-range scanners showed the expected pattern. Fleeing civilian craft, hastily organized defense flotillas that wouldn't last 10 minutes against Zephyrian plasma cannon, and what appeared to be a surrender broadcast on multiple frequencies. Pathetic, he chittered to his bridge crew. Begin charging weapon systems. Target their largest population centers first. It will break their spirit faster. That's when the anomaly readings began. Commander, his sensor operator's voice carried. An unusual tremor. I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations from their lunar installations. Defensive systems? Vextai asked dismissively. Our shields can handle anything these primitives. The sentence died in his throat as space itself began to twist. Marcus had spent the last 8 hours making modifications that would have horrified every physicist on Earth. He'd stripped away every safety protocol, every failsafe, every limit that the original Prometheus team had built into their theoretical framework. If humanity was going to die, they'd make sure no other species ever had to face the same fate. Aria, initiate. Quantum cascade sequence. Dr. Chun, the probability of containing this reaction is less than 4%. The probability of survival for anyone within a 50 light-year radius is, I know the odds. Marcus's voice was steel. Fire. The weapon didn't create light or sound or any of the dramatic displays humans had imagined in their entertainment. Instead, it reached across space-time itself and whispered a single, fundamental change to reality. Matter simply forgot how to hold itself together. It started with the Zephyrian flagship. Commander Vextai watched in horror as his ship's hull began to dissolve at the molecular level. Not melting, not exploding, just ceasing to exist as if it had never been built. The effects spread like ripples in a pond, consuming ship after ship in perfect silence. Retreat? He screamed into his communications array. All ships, emergency hyperspace jump. Warn the homeworld. The humans, they're not what we... The transmission cut off as Vexti's ship joined the growing void where the Zephyrian fleet had once been. Marcus watched from Luna base as the last enemy vessel dissolved into constituent atoms. The quantum cascade was still spreading, consuming everything in its path. Asteroids, cosmic dust, even the fabric of space-time itself was beginning to fray at the edges. The reaction is accelerating beyond predicted parameters, Arya reported with what almost sounded like sadness. Estimated time until Cascade reaches Earth, 43 minutes. Marcus nodded calmly. He'd known this would be a one-way trip from the moment he initiated the sequence. Humanity would survive. Most of the evacuation fleets had already jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's genetic heritage and cultural legacy to distant colonies that had been secretly established decades ago. But the Zephyrians? They'd made a critical error in judgment. They'd assumed that because humans seemed primitive, they would fight like primitives. They'd expected orbital bombardments to be met with orbital bombardments, plasma cannons with plasma cannons. They'd calculated based on the assumption that their enemies would want to survive. They'd never encountered a species that would burn down the entire universe just to make sure their children had a fighting chance somewhere else. As the quantum cascade began consuming Luna Base's outer structures, Marcus opened a final transmission on all frequencies. One last message for any species that might be listening in the void between stars. "This is Dr. Marcus Chun of the human species," he said quietly into the recorder. "If you're receiving this transmission, it means you discovered the remains of our solar system. We were attacked by a species that believed we were weak, primitive, and easily conquered. They were correct about our technology. They were wrong about our resolve." The walls around him began to shimmer and fade as reality itself unraveled. Consider this a warning to any other species that might share their perspective. Humans are not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most advanced. But we are the most stubborn. And when you corner something stubborn enough, it doesn't matter how primitive their weapons are. They'll find a way to make you regret it. The transmission ended as Luna Base dissolved into quantum foam. 3 days later, when the evacuation fleets reached the Centauri colonies and began rebuilding human civilization, they found that word of Earth's fate had already spread across the galaxy. The surviving alien species had apparently decided that humans were far too dangerous to bother with. Marcus Chin had become a legend among the stars, the human who'd erased an entire solar system just to send a message. The message was received loud and clear. Never underestimate a human's capacity for spite.